Welcome to Canadian Justice. I'm Christine Van Gyn, and today we're discussing gender policy and parental rights. The Alberta government of Danielle Smith recently announced it would join the provinces of New Brunswick and Saskatchewan in requiring schools to notify and get parental consent before altering the names and pronouns of children under 15. Alberta also intends to introduce stricter measures than those provinces by restricting access to medical treatments like puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones for children under 16 and prohibiting sex change surgeries for those under 18. The province also proposed limiting the participation of biological males in female sports. These policy decisions have elicited strong criticism, especially from academic circles and from some legal experts. But other scholars and experts support these policies, viewing them as protecting the rights of children, including transgender children and their parents, as well as the rights of women and girls to participate in sports. Recently, the Macdonald-Laurier Institute published a paper called The Children's Charter that engages with all of these topics. I'm joined today by one of the authors, University of Ottawa Assistant Professor of Law, Stéphane Sèrafin. Professor Sèrafin, thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed your paper. I found it really fascinating. You know, as a mom and a civil liberties advocate, I'm really interested in this subject. And I've actually noticed that a lot of the commentary on the issue has been extremely, I'd say, one-sided. Why do you think that is?
First of all, thanks for having me on, Christine, to talk about this. It's an important topic, as you know. Now, as to your question, that's a very interesting one. And I don't have a definitive answer for you, aside from, my co-author and I muse about it in the paper. So we suggest that at least part of it is probably due to the sort of like a lack of ideological diversity and viewpoint diversity in academia. So most of these comments are coming out of academia. They're coming out primarily, though not exclusively, from law faculties. So there's an open letter, for example, that was written in response to the initial announcement, really, by Premier Smith. It was signed by exclusively law professors. I think it was something like 30 law professors that signed on to this letter. So in the paper, we cite to another report that the Macdonald-Laurier Institute published last year by Christopher Dummett and Zachary Patterson, who basically go through the survey results of the survey they conducted of Canadian academics, and finds that something like 9 out of 10 Canadian academics either self-identify as left-wing or vote for left-leaning parties. So I think this explains a lot of it. I mean, I'm not going to say that everyone on the left who identifies with left-wing politics is going to be opposed to these policies. I suspect quite a few of them are actually, if not in favor of the announced policies, then at least more sympathetic to the positions that we defend in our paper than they would like to admit. But certainly, like the overall ideological context of the academy, I think contributes a lot to the one-sided discourse.
So let's talk about what these policies are, the Alberta ones. And I sort of outlined them in my introduction. There's policies related to parental notification about change of pronoun use in schools. There's policies related to access to different medical interventions, ranging from puberty blockers to cross-sex hormones to surgical interventions. And then there's another stream of policy related to trans women, so people who were biologically male at one point and then transitioned to identify as female, prohibiting them from participating in women's sports. So anything you want to add to those policies or flesh out any of the detail?
Well, that's okay. So the first thing to note is that we don't really have much more detail than what you just said. So the announcement was made. We know what the Alberta government is contemplating in its broad outlines. So it's pretty much what you just said. Parental notification and consent for children under 15, restrictions on access to certain medical interventions, and they vary depending on the medical intervention in question. And then measures, we don't know what kind of measures, to protect the sort of integrity of girls and women's sports as a distinct category. Now, what that means and what kind of restrictions they're contemplating for that, we don't know yet. And that's, I think, very important to note and also to understand the reaction to these policies and how somewhat bizarre it is, frankly. because the objection doesn't seem to be to the proposed measures that the Alberta government is contemplating. I mean, I don't know what those
Right.
measures are. You could quibble with specifics. Some of the choices they make might be wrong.
Stefan, we've got to
Yeah.
we've got to go to commercial break now, but let's talk about when we're back.
Okay.